Hi, my name is Jessie Harold, and I am a coach and a doula, and I've been supporting people through radical life transformations and other rites of passage for over a decade. And today I want to talk to you about something I call the 7 core competencies of radical transformation. So, what are these core competencies? Well, I'll get to exactly what they are in a moment, but generally, they are skills and capacities that I have found you need to help you traverse times of major change in your life. But they also represent a rewilding of our hearts and a reclaiming of parts of ourselves that our culture has devalued or cast aside. So these core competencies are also a little counterculture. They're also exactly what our world needs right now. It needs more people with these skills and capacities. This is not just about you traversing change with more ease, but you becoming a more wholehearted participant in the goodness of the world, and apprenticing yourself to eldership in a world that desperately needs wise souls and wisdom keepers. And I will say that these are ancestral skills in a way. They are skills that used to be a part of the culture that we were steeped in and that we've lost along the way. They are self-tending, ritual, embodiment, earth connection, creativity, community, and inner knowing. So let's dive in. Self-tending is the first one. And when I say self-tending, I do not mean self-care necessarily the way that we think of it. Not necessarily bubble baths and pedicures. It's often more about meeting our needs than our wants. And often starting first with our physiological, like our very basic human needs, like drinking water when you're thirsty, eating when you're hungry, going to the bathroom when you need to go to the bathroom, which so many of us actually find ways to deny ourselves even those most basic physiological responses or care of those responses. And so this is often where we start when it comes to recognizing our needs and meeting them. There are 3 steps to the process of self-tending. The first is to recognize that you have a need and what that need is. The second is to validate that and say, hey, like it's okay to feel hungry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to have that feeling. And then to meet the need as best you can. And basically, we pull in attachment theory here, and the idea of that is that the more often you meet your needs and meet them like at least semi-skillfully, you build up this schema of self-trust and that you are a safe haven and a secure base for yourself. You've got your own back, basically, or you know how to ask for help, and what you need when you ask. And this work of self-tending is really foundational during times of radical transformation. It's like the first work we need to do, because often during those times of major shift, it's our self-care, it's caring to our own needs that is the first to go out the window. And it's a beautiful way to reconnect with yourself, which again is the first pillar, the first work that we need to do as we're traversing big change. The next core competency is ritual. I like to say that ritual is like putting a pin in the map of your life and saying, this matters. It's a way of slowing down time, of noticing our lives, of metabolizing change, of honoring where we've come from, sometimes grieving or releasing where we've come from, and acknowledging and celebrating where we're headed. Things like daily rituals or regular rituals can be a beautiful way to reconnect with ourselves. So again, one of those first kind of moves that we need to make when we're going through big changes to reconnect with self. One of the daily rituals that I do and that I always kind of recommend to clients is called 5 things. And it's just taking 5 minutes to write 5 things that are true for you right now, that are just present for you. And the constraints of that practice actually allow things to come up that are usually surprising and a little different than what's been kind of ruminating in your mind for the last however many weeks. And so it's a great way to connect with yourself, and that can be done as a regular ritual. Also, one-off rituals or sort of single event rituals can honor times of change, can help us metabolize change and help us release. And so ritual is absolutely an incredibly important part of learning to traverse radical transformation with some sense of ease. Embodiment is the next core competency. So many of us are kind of living from the neck up on our devices, feeling a little bit disembodied. And our culture reinforces that, right? We're told over and over again that our bodies are not good enough, that they're not to be trusted. But actually, what I've noticed is that our bodies are often a barometer for when change is happening or when change is needed. It's often our bodies that let us know through burnout or illness. And our bodies can tell us what feels good and what doesn't. And so it's a tremendous source. Our bodies are a tremendous source of power and intuition. And reclaiming a relationship with your body is, again, a fundamental skill that we need to grow to be able to traverse change well. The next core competency is earth connection. We've always turned to the earth in times of change across culture, across time. We have done major transformation in the arms of Mother Earth. The earth provides the best example ever of how to weather change, and we witness the life cycle every single season, and we can lean on that wisdom as we traverse change in our own lives. But we've lost our connection to the earth, and so we've lost a bit of the wisdom that it offers us when it comes to supporting us through times of major change. And also, we benefit from being in nature. We benefit from going outside. We feel better, and it's a way of being connected to ourselves, to be on the land. And so, again, a hugely important capacity to grow as we traverse radical transformation. Creativity is the next one. When you're going through change, you are literally creating yourself anew. And creativity allows us to really process and metabolize change in our lives. There's a beautiful quote from Lucy Pierce that says, "We cannot control much of what happens to us in our lives, but if creativity is our default processing response, our ability to heal and transform is enabled." So the liminal space, the in-between space, when we're no longer this, but we haven't quite stepped into this new identity yet, is fertile ground for creativity. So we often see creativity just happening during times of change. But it also, creative practice can teach us the meta skills that we need to traverse change well. So the skill of stepping into the unknown, of being kind of engaged in process over outcome, of being comfortable with non-linear cyclical processes. This is what creativity can teach us that we can apply to the experience of change in our lives. And that's one of the reasons why it's such an important core competency of radical transformation. Community is the next core competency. We've lost the skill for, in many ways, and capacity to be in community. We've lost the ability to really listen well and hold space well in our kind of Western culture. And we've also become somewhat villageless. We don't have community in the same way our foremothers and forefathers did. And what's really challenging about this is that oftentimes when we're traversing change, when we're changing, our sense of belonging gets disrupted. We're asking not only who am I, but where do I belong? To whom do I belong? And so community becomes disrupted during this time, but is actually really important. There are many cultures that say that a rite of passage isn't complete until it's been witnessed by the community, until someone can see you, like deeply see you, and say, I see you. You've changed. You've changed. And there's a way in which that solidifies our process of transformation. And so it's incredibly important as we're traversing change to learn the skills of building community. Finally, we have inner knowing. Inner knowing, another way to say it is intuition. It's kind of a radical way of knowing. It's not seen as being valuable in our world that requires proof and evidence for everything. Saying you just know is not super popular. It's also kind of rare. Like intuition and inner knowing requires spaciousness and embodiment to be able to hear it. And those are things that are in scarce commodity in our lives now. We're often too busy and in our heads to hear our own selves, to hear our own knowing. But in times of radical transformation, we're often called to make big decisions and to guide ourselves. And so we need intuition and inner knowing. And what's interesting about this is that it's actually a sign of mature adult development to go from what's called an exogenous meaning making or decision making system, where you look outside yourself for what to do next and where to go and what's important and what your values are, to an endogenous one. It's a way of taking up our self-authority and our sovereignty. And so, again, an incredibly important part of radical transformation, coming home to yourself and to your own way of knowing. So that's the 7 core competencies of radical transformation. I'm wishing you well as you traverse this change in your life.